The leadership coup means a negotiated settlement on the mining tax is now more likely, but it's not clear how different the proposed tax will be. Is everything on the table? Treasurer Wayne Swan will be in charge of the talks, and the new Deputy Prime Minister joins me now in our Parliament House studio. Treasurer, good morning and congratulations on the promotion.
Good morning, Fran. It's great to be here. It's an honour to serve in that role.
Treasurer, what convinced you that a change of leadership was needed?
I believe that there was a very strong mood for change in the caucus. That became apparent to me on the day before yesterday, later in the afternoon, when I was approached by a significant number of caucus members right across the party who believed that there was a need for a change. So I took the view that we needed a decisive change, one that was very clear, so that both the party and the community could unite behind a new Prime Minister, Julia Gillard.
Julia Gillard said she moved to unseat Kevin Rudd because the government was losing its way. What do you think, understand by that? In what areas? Leadership, policy? Where was Labor lost?
Well, I think there were a variety of factors, Fran. Caucus members were saying to me that they believed that Kevin had lost support in the community, that they could not dare to contemplate the prospect of a government led by Tony Abbott, which would smash the living standards of Australians through a reintroduction of work choices and through huge cuts to health and educational services. That was one factor that was put to me. On the other hand, I do believe there was unease in the community about the handling of a number of significant issues, implementation issues, for example, in terms of government programs. So there was a range of issues that were driving this demand for fundamental change.
But fundamental change only in the leadership. Is he responsible for all of this? And did you ever try to say, Kevin, you've lost your way?
Look, there's no doubt that I accept responsibility for my part in all of the decisions that the government has taken. You can't pick and choose when you are Treasurer. You are engaged in all of those decisions. I can't go into discussions that we had through the Cabinet process, but I certainly accept my part for those decisions that we didn't get right. And I've said that publicly before. But at the end of the day, the view was held by many in the caucus that there was a need for a fresh start, for a change in the leadership. That was a view that was put to me. It became very clear to me that that change would occur. I took the view that it was very important that that be a clear and decisive decision, and that's why I moved the way I did.
What has Julia Gillard got that Kevin Rudd doesn't have? I mean, how are you going to sell that to the
Well,
voters?
I think Julia Gillard is a very strong, independent, compassionate leader. She's got a very good track record and I think a very good rapport with the community. And I think those were aspects of her personality and her leadership style that appealed to members right across the caucus, and I believe also to the wider community.
You said it became clear to you that there was a mood for change. This has been described as a ruthless, brutal political assassination. It certainly was quicker than anything you've ever seen, I reckon. It was clandestine. Is all of that a fair description of what went on?
Well, no, I don't believe it is. It was certainly swift, but it was broadly based right across the parliamentary party, and I believe...
Well, not initially, wasn't it really the members from the right, coming from the right in New South Wales, the right in Victoria and the right in South Australia?
Well, I was approached by a large number of members of Parliament from right across the party, ones that surprised me, in fact. So I believe it was very broadly based. I don't accept that characterisation at all. I believe there was an overwhelming view that it was in the national interest, not just the interest of the Labor Party, that there be a change of leadership and a fresh start, and a party united behind the strong leadership of Julia Gillard.
I want to come to some policy in a moment, but just to finish this off, we heard some vox pops already from Queensland, and there was a fair mood there that people didn't like the way this was done. Talkback radio, there's been a fair bit of that. Are you worried about that? And I wonder if you tried to talk the plotters out of it, and you worried whether this might damage Julia Gillard, the way she got the job?
Look, these decisions are always difficult and gut-wrenching.
Did you try and stop it?
We should be very clear about that, but it was very clear to me there was a strong mood right across the parliamentary party, but also I believe in the wider community. And that mood, I believe, was reflected in the strength of the support for Julia Gillard.
Well, Tony Abbott is making the most of the fact that, as he says, the same ruthless power brokers who executed Morris Yema and Nathan Rees in New South Wales have executed Kevin Rudd, but the public won't be fooled. Does Julia Gillard need to do anything to reassure voters she's not a puppet of the factions, particularly of the New South Wales right?
I think the public is acutely aware that Julia Gillard is a very independent person. I have worked very closely with Julia Gillard for a long period of time, and intensely with Julia Gillard in the time that we've been in government. And she is fiercely independent. She has her own mind. She makes her own decisions. And I think she took her decision in the national interest, and I believe those broad numbers of caucus members who approached me were acting in the national interest.
In terms of getting back on track, Julia Gillard moved immediately on the mining tax. Is the whole tax now on the table for negotiation?
Well, we're committed to a profits-based tax. The mining industry says that they are committed to a profits-based tax as well. I welcome the decision by the mining industry to withdraw their advertising campaign yesterday. That is a sign of good faith. We are genuine in our desire to negotiate with the industry. The Prime Minister yesterday called on the industry to open its mind, and we've seen an act of good faith from the industry. But I'm not going to speculate publicly about the scope of those negotiations, except to say that we are committed to a profits-based tax, to getting a fairer share of the value of our mineral resources owned by the Australian people 100%.
Right, it's just that this is an important thing for the voters to understand. I think people would like to know whether it's the same tax on the table, the one they know about, they've read about.
It is the same tax that's on the table. It's a profits-based tax. When we made the original announcement, we put out some design parameters for the tax. We said we wanted to discuss and negotiate about those issues. We didn't get the degree of negotiation from some sectors of the mining industry that we wanted to have. It is now clear that the door is open again, but I'm not going to preempt any of those discussions on this radio program this morning.
What about the 40%? You're always keen on that. That was a line in the sand. Is that still a line in the sand?
Well, the 40% is used with the PRRT, for example, but I'm not going to go into a discussion about all of the detail. We're going to go into these negotiations again with good faith, in a genuine way, and resolve this matter.
Implicit in this restart of these negotiations and throwing open the door, apart from implying that the door was not properly opened before, is the allegation that Kevin Rudd didn't run a proper negotiation. What responsibility do you bear for pushing a tax that has destroyed one of Labor's most popular leaders?
Well, I don't accept that characterisation either. A profits-based tax is a very important reform for this country. The price of our minerals has gone through the roof. The community's share of that has not kept pace. That has to be rectified. I, as Treasurer, when I received the report of the independent tax inquiry, could simply not ignore that evidence. The government has acted correctly on the evidence provided to us by that independent inquiry. It is the case that the industry was never going to, in a unanimous way, come to a view that they should pay more tax. But I don't want to preempt the negotiations that will take place. The initiative by the Prime Minister, I think it's an important one. It is true that there were negotiations going on, and we have had very productive talks with significant sections of the industry. But it's also true to say that other sections of the industry did not engage in those negotiations. The door is now open. In good faith, I'm not going to preempt those discussions.
But it's clear, isn't it, that you're still expecting some kind of mining tax to come in that will deliver some profit to the government, to your budget.
Absolutely.
And is your budget still going to be in surplus by 2013 as committed to by Julia Gillard? And if it is, then you're committed to presumably raising the same amount of money from the mining
Fran,
tax.
as I've explained on this program before, the mining tax is not essential for the budget to return to surplus. The budget is going to return to surplus in 3 years' time, 3 years early, and it is not dependent upon revenue from the mining tax. What I said and what the government said when we announced this tax is that we would spend the revenue from the mining tax on improving superannuation, on cutting the company rate, and boosting infrastructure. And I made the point on day one that if that revenue was not available, it would be hard to deliver all of those initiatives. That point was made in the press conference which you attended on the day that I released the report.
But the bottom line is, so whatever you negotiate with the miners, whatever tax you manage to negotiate, it will be a profit going into the budget.
Well, we will have a profits-based tax which will produce a fair...
Miners will be paying more.
Which will produce fair value revenue for the Australian people from the resources they own 100%, which can only be dug up once.
And miners will be paying more.
Certainly.